Welcome to This Week in High School Sports. I'm Teresa Whipple, and welcome back, Steve Willits.
Thank you, Teresa.
We have some great news to share with you about all of the sports news, but first, we want to get right to our sponsor, Carrie Krause.
Absolutely. Whether you need to buy or sell a real estate, Carrie Krause is ready to help you. She's local to South Snohomish and North King counties and knows the area very well. Contact Carrie to get more information on the value of your home or maybe a referral for a great mortgage advisor. When it's time to get to work, Carrie will take as much stress, worry, and work off of your plate as possible to make the home buying or selling process a positive one. You can find past client reviews on Zillow and Yelp. And oh, by the way, Carrie doesn't work 9 to 5. She's here for you on your schedule. So again, we'd like to thank Carrie personally for all of her help in making this endeavor continue and for continuously supporting sports and other programs in the area.
Yes, thanks, Carrie. And Steve, the big news is reclassification of schools. What's going on with that?
Yeah, big news this week coming out of the WIAA, some of which we expected, but on the football side of things, a huge surprise. So the WIAA is the governing body for Washington State high school sports. Usually it's a 2-year cycle, but it's going to become a 4-year cycle now. But generally what they do is every 2 years they get together, they look at enrollment numbers throughout the state, and they determine whether or not schools need to be moved around or reclassified due to the fact that enrollments tend to go up or down, and to create a competitive balance amongst schools. You certainly don't want schools with larger enrollments playing against smaller enrollments and fighting for state championships and other things like that. So what they found this week, though, was that one of our schools, Mountlake Terrace, they're going to go from being a 3A classification to a 2A classification. It's going to take them away from the other 3 schools in the school district. It doesn't change much for most of the sports, but football's a big one. We'll go to the other sports first. What this essentially means is that Mountlake Terrace will continue to participate in Wesco athletics, the Wesco 3A classification with Meadowdale, Lynnwood, and Edmonds-Woodway. However, when it comes time for the playoffs, when it comes time for postseason play, Mountlake Terrace will branch off and play against other district teams or other teams within the state at the 2A level, so you won't see Mountlake Terrace playing any of the other 3 schools in postseason play. Now, where things change a little bit is on the football side of things. What the athletic directors in the area have decided to do is to form essentially 3 new conferences for the football season and football season only. So Mountlake Terrace is going to participate in a 2A conference, yet to be named, but the conference is going to be all over the place, really from Mountlake Terrace all the way up to the Canadian border. So you've got Archbishop Murphy, Cedar Crest, Granite Falls, Lakewood, Linden, Seaholm, Cedar-Woolley, Burlington Edison, Blaine, Anacortes, and Bellingham, all in one breath, all playing against Mountlake Terrace in a conference. So it'll be 2 divisions of 6 teams, yet to be determined. So Mountlake Terrace will play 5 games a year against a group of those teams that we just mentioned. And then I would assume they'll still end up playing probably 3 non-conference games against the Edmonds School District teams. But again, we don't know that yet. And really the only changes for the other 3 schools, Glacier Peak, who's been in their conference all along and in their division, they're going to move up to 4A. Snohomish will replace them. They're coming down to 3A. And we think Everett will also join that South Division for football only, because Squalicum and Ferndale are going to come up from the north and join the 3A North Division. So if I haven't complicated this too much, that's what's going on. But it's gonna mean big changes for Mountlake Terrace in football, and it's going to mean also that Mountlake Terrace, a school that's always been a little bit on the smaller side of things for 3A anyway, might have a little more of a competitive advantage when it comes to getting their students in for postseason play come state tournament time.
Yeah, and some more time on the buses. You know, it's interesting. I saw an interview with Kelly Dugan, the Terrace football coach, and he was asked that question about, well, gosh, that means an awful lot of time going to the schools that are far north. And he actually said it wasn't a problem. He thought it was good bonding time. So that was an interesting perspective.
It can be, and I think the reason they do this for football only is that football is once a week essentially, and it's a shorter season.
Right.
When you're looking at sports like baseball where you might have 3 or 4 games a week, softball,
that
basketball, it would be hard. So I think what they've decided to do is keep Mountlake Terrace geographically located in closer proximity to their teams and their conferences, which is why they're going to continue to play the Edmonds School District schools. It also means that you've got your rivalry still intact as well. So you can get away with it in football, be a little bit tougher in other sports. So certainly it does change the complex of football in the area.
Okay. Well, now we have the segue, which we probably won't be able to do very often on the show, which we could say, and now in news from Japan.
Yeah, not directly in Japan, but they're coming to us. We teased this a little bit last week where we gave you a little heads up. The Japanese Cultural Exchange Tour was taking place. This is a national team from Japan, wrestling team, under 18, and they are touring throughout America. I think primarily this team is going throughout the state of Washington. And they ended their tour at Edmonds-Woodway last Tuesday. So what this all-star team of Japanese wrestlers did is they went up against a team that was put together by Brian Alfie, who's the head coach at Edmonds-Woodway. 18 different wrestlers from Skagit, Whatcom, and Snohomish County wrestled against this Japanese team. Little interesting format too. It's freestyle as opposed to collegiate wrestling, so the kids had to adjust a little bit, the kids from the state of Washington. Unfortunately, none of our kids from around here were able to win their meets or their matches because of the fact that we're looking at a team that's the best in the nation, essentially, from who they're wrestling. But I think the kids had a lot of fun with it. I know that when the 110-pound wrestler from the Japanese team stepped out, Coach Brian Alfie had a little fun with it, and he sent Abdulli Jada, who's one of the Edmonds-Woodway wrestlers, he sent him out to act like he was going to wrestle against the 110-pounder. Abdulli weighs 170, so everybody got a little kick out of that. But it was a little bit of a tough go for the kids from around here. But still, Abrima Faddy, Riley Stewart, both Edmonds-Woodway wrestlers, Spencer Schultz from Edmonds-Woodway, as well as Eli Wilson from Mountlake Terrace, all partook in this event, and it sounds like a lot of fun was had by everybody. Yeah, it's a great opportunity for the kids. And wrestling in general, Edmonds-Woodway continues to do really well, don't they? Big week for the Warriors. They had three meets, three victories. So they had a dual match against Shorecrest and Shorewood. Right. Won both of those. Actually shut Shorecrest out 72-0. And then they defeated Glacier Peak, so the Warriors keep rolling. That's good. We'll be seeing some of those guys, I'm sure, in the state MAC Classic. Should also mention Mountlake Terrace got a victory over Shorewood that night as well, so nice job by the Hawks. Okay, good. And speaking of continuing to win, let's move on to the Lynnwood girls. They continue to win indeed. The Royals had 2 victories this week, their closest game of the year so far. They played against the 8th-ranked team in the state, Glacier Peak, defeated them 60-54. It's a Glacier Peak team that shot over 60% from the three-point line in that game, and admittedly not Lynnwood's best shooting night of the year, so it kind of gives you an idea as to what you're looking at when you play Lynnwood. You can play your best game, they can have an off night, and they still beat you by 6. Lynnwood then turned around and played Shorecrest on Friday night, a Shorecrest team that had 5 consecutive victories going into the game, and they defeated them 85-61. So, and by the way, Shorecrest head coach Dory Monson was not able to be at the game because he also works for Cairo Radio. He does the post-game and pre-game show for the Seahawks. So Dory had a little bit of a work situation over in Charlotte this weekend, and we'll forgive him for that. So he was not at the game, but nonetheless, Lynnwood gets the victory. Michaela Pivick, 31 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 steals. Just a typical night for Michaela. Typical game for her, yeah. Yeah, and then Jordan Edwards, we gave her our Adrenaline Fundraising Player of the Game award. She had 18 points, 6 assists, and 6 steals, and probably was instrumental in creating 5 or 6 other steals in which she batted a ball to one of her teammates. Huge game coming up for Lynnwood. Monday, Martin Luther King Day, they are going to play down at the Showwear Center in Kent. They're playing Todd Beamer, who's ranked 3rd in the state at the 4A level. Keep in mind, Lynnwood is ranked number 1 in the state at the 3A level. It's a Todd Beamer team that they played last year on Martin Luther King Day, a team that beat them last year. So Lynnwood looking for a little revenge and looking to stay undefeated. Oh, that should be a good experience. And Meadowdale girls, they got a big win last week as well. Yeah, Meadowdale ladies picking up their first conference win of the year. They have 4 wins total now, but they were able to defeat Mountlake Terrace 46-29. Very even scoring for the Mavs. Grace Wilson was the leading scorer with 8 points. So that lets you know right there that they were distributing the ball well, and a nice team effort for them and a nice victory for the Mavericks. Very good. And the boys, Meadowdale boys, that was the upset of the week, wasn't it? It was and it wasn't. I think it depends on who you ask. If you ask Meadowdale, they might disagree. But Meadowdale coming into that game against Mountlake Terrace on Tuesday, they had a 1-4 record in conference play. Mountlake Terrace was undefeated in conference play for the year. Meadowdale jumped out to a 12-0 lead early in the game. Mountlake Terrace came back, but the Mavericks were able to hold on for a 54-50 victory. Interesting game for Meadowdale. They need to finish in the top 4 in the conference to qualify for district play. It was a huge matchup for them. They knew if they lost that game, their next game was next Tuesday against Edmonds-Woodway. There was a chance that they could even go 1-6 on the season to start the year if they lost both of those games. So the team captains had a meeting with the coaches. That was Harry White, Lee Bremer, and Nathan Heilpap. They got everything together and they figured it out, and they got a nice win over the Mountlake Terrace Hawks. So congratulations to the Mavs.
And the Edmonds-Woodway boys basketball, man, they are just really something. I watched your broadcast against Glacier Peak earlier in the week, last week, and that was an amazing game.
Yeah, they defeated Glacier Peak by 11 points, 74-63. They then turned around and beat a good Shorecrest team, 81-55. Mountlake Terrace lost twice this week, so with those 2 losses and the 2 Warrior wins, the Warriors move into first place for the first time this year. So they are now 5-1 in league play. And again, another great game, great games, I should say, by David Woodard. He had 51 points total in the 2 games combined. Jordan Rice had a nice fourth quarter against Glacier Peak. We gave him the Player of the Game award because of that. Trey Holland had a huge third quarter in that win over Glacier Peak. And Brady Edwards coming off the bench, double-digit performance on the night for him against Glacier Peak. So a nice job by the Warriors.
I never have a hard time picking out Jordan when I look at the photos because the shoes.
Got the shoes.
The bright orange.
Jordan with the bright orange,
Yeah.
and David Woodard wears bright shoes too. So
Yeah.
they're always interesting to look at on the court, and definitely making a little fashion statement over the Warriors.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Swimming.
Busy upcoming week for the swimmers. We didn't get any victories from our 4 Edmonds School District schools last week. I think that will change on Tuesday because all 4 of them will be going against each other at Lynnwood Pool.
Someone's going to win.
Somebody has to win, right? So 3 o'clock Tuesday at Lynnwood Pool. We hope folks show up to watch that. And then on Thursday, Kamiak will be going against Edmonds-Woodway and Mountlake Terrace at Lynnwood Pool again at 3 o'clock. And then Lynnwood and Meadowdale also on Thursday will be over at Kamiak going against Mariner.
Okay. So any other sports we haven't? I think we've covered it all, right? And we can just talk about what's coming up this week?
We've covered everything that's gone on this past week, but we have plenty coming up. We mentioned the Lynnwood Todd Beamer game. We've got 2 broadcasts coming up, both involving the Mountlake Terrace boys basketball team, both going up against other Edmonds School District teams. So Mountlake Terrace versus Lynnwood on Tuesday night. That's over at Mountlake Terrace. And then Mountlake Terrace versus Edmonds-Woodway on Friday, which could be for first place depending on how the other games play out. So that will also be broadcasted on the Sound Live Sports Network. Some other games coming up this week. We mentioned Meadowdale. They're in a tie for 4th place right now with Glacier Peak. They actually play Glacier Peak on Friday, but first they need to play Edmonds-Woodway on Tuesday, and that's going to be over at Meadowdale. And then on the girls' side of things, some big games coming up. Edmonds-Woodway is going to Meadowdale on Wednesday. Lynnwood goes to Mountlake Terrace on the same day. And then on Friday, Glacier Peak at Meadowdale and Edmonds-Woodway at Mountlake Terrace.
Okay, good. And again, all of those games start at 7:15, the basketball games, correct?
Correct.
And soundlivesportsnetwork.com is your URL for any of the live broadcasts we have. So thanks for tuning in here with Steve Willits. I'm Teresa Whipple, and we hope to see you next week.